All yours. Good morning, everybody.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Hi. Hi. My name is Cindy Shaw. I'm the Chief Recovery Officer at the Lighthouse. I've got some alphabets and sort of years of working and experience in this field. But I think my most important qualification is that I'm in lived recovery. I'm very grateful to be here to present this morning. I don't even know what time it is. And I usually begin most of my presentations with a meditation. But because we're talking about recovery coaching today, I thought I would start with the motivational interviewing prayer. Motivational interviewing is the tool that we use as recovery coaches. And so I thought I'd begin with that. So let me just, oh, I have to get to the next slide. So, Travis, how do I move to the next slide? Sorry, moving.
Should be able to just use the arrows on your
The arrows. It's not going. Hmm. Let me see.
on the bottom. There you go.
There we
There
go.
it is.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
See,
This is a prayer from William Miller. Um, and he's called it a motivational interviewing prayer. Motivational interviewing, the oars are the tools that we use as recovery coaches. So instead of a meditation, I thought I could share this with you. So if you want to take a second, just drop into your seat. You can close your eyes, you can leave them open, but just sort of listen to this. And this is sort of the intention behind the work that we do as coaches. Um, Guide me to be a patient companion, to listen with a heart as open as the sky. Grant me vision to see through her eyes and eager ears to hear her story. Create a safe and open mesa on which we may walk together. Make me a clear pool in which she may reflect. Guide me to find in her your beauty and wisdom, knowing your desire for her to be in harmony, healthy, loving, and strong. Let me honor and respect her choosing of her own path and bless her to walk it freely. May I know once again that although she and I are different, yet there is a peaceful place where we are one. William Miller. So, welcome everybody. I thought we could start with sort of that sort of intentionality, sort of in the background, but also begin with some introductions. So, again, my name is Cindy. I am in lived recovery since 2011. I'm the Chief Recovery Officer at the Lighthouse. I'm newly to the board of CCAR. I'm also on the board of liberation programs. I would say that recovery coaching and specifically my CCAR training has probably changed how I approach my own recovery and how I approach pretty much everything else in life, and has changed my career pathway as well. So it has been an extraordinary experience for me, and I'm very grateful to be here and to share the little bit I know about this topic. Um, I was hoping that we could just go around and introduce ourselves, and you could just let me know why you chose to come here today and take this be part of this presentation. Yeah, so as I said earlier, just wowed. I can't believe we have an international community here. When I started doing this, it was just people were like, "What is recovery coaching?" and no one was really talking about it. This is just like incredible, incredible. I'm very excited to be here and quite honored. So let's see if I can move my screen here. And I can't. So Travis, I don't know what I'm supposed to be clicking to move my screen here now.
so on the bottom left of your screen, when you move in the bottom
Hold
left of
on.
your slideshow, I should say, you
Yeah.
can see some arrows, or at least we can see them.
Oh, you can see them. I can't see. Oops. Oh, I guess I hit something. So there we go.
I
I
think, and
guess we're,
sometimes you can just click it and it'll move on it. It'll
yeah,
move
it's
for you
not
too.
clicking. That's how it usually happens. But
We'll
All
make it
right, so
work.
I'll try not to get ahead of myself.
Okay.
So today we have gathered together from all over the world to talk about defining recovery coaching or peer support services. I know those two terms are used interchangeably. I will use probably the term recovery coaching most often. Some of you might have heard peer support specialists. There are all sorts of variations on that theme. I'm probably going to use recovery coaching is sort of what I will use, but it encompasses all of those different peer support titles. We're going to clarify what recovery coaching is. We're going to talk about what it's not and sort of debunk a couple of the myths around recovery coaching. We're going to discuss current research, specifically the research of Dr. John Kelly, who's done a lot of longitudinal research on recovery. And he speaks to this long-term process, right? And then we're going to discuss how recovery coaching fits into the continuum of care. And my suggestion is, or my invitation is this is up to us as recovery coaches, right? This is a long healing process, and who is going to be there for individuals doing it? So my suggestion is that's what we are best suited to do. So that's what we're going to try to do today. So what is recovery? Just for a second, and Travis, I can't see my clock, so if I'm getting away in time in any way, shape, or form, if you can give me like a signal. But if someone wants to just pop out like in 1-2 words, what is recovery? What does recovery mean to you? What would your definition of recovery be? Anybody? Yeah, just go for it.
I would say an act of changing ideas, attitudes to improve your way of life.
Okay, changing attitudes and ideas. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else?
Freedom.
Freedom. Oh, I love that, Maggie. Yeah, freedom. Ah, yes.
Just come in.
GRA 18.
Grace. Hi. Sorry, I don't know why my name isn't on there. I would say recovery to me is changing from I don't know if I said it in my introduction, I'm in long-term recovery. So I would say it was changing from a very unhealthy, emotional, physical way of living and changing my path to a healthier way of life and rebuilding my life upon that.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. Anybody else want to share? So it's just like amazing because your descriptions or definitions sort of match these two. I'm going to share. So SAMHSA, who's the sort of federal agency of substance abuse and mental health services administration, defines recovery as a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential. Right? CCAR defines recovery as you're in recovery when you say you are. And then you all shared that recovery is freedom, changes in ideas and attitudes, changing unhealthy ways of life. I'd like to just applaud and sort of scream out loud that no one said recovery is sobriety. That's quite amazing, right? And so that's a really important thing for us to sort of hold as we consider recovery coaching and what recovery is. We are not saying that recovery equals sobriety. My recovery was born out of the 12-step program. And so for many, many years, I thought that recovery equaled sober. Recovery equaled no drinking, no drugs. And so this challenges that, right? It is a process. We recognize this is a process. And the research that we're going to look at is going to show us that this is a really, really long-term process. in which individuals improve their health and wellness. Nothing about sobriety there. We're just improving health and wellness. Self-directed is key, and reaching our full potential. And then, of course, CCAR is like, the moment you say you are in recovery, yeah, you are, right? We're going to meet you right where you are at, right? So these are important definitions, I think. And it is exciting for me to hear that people are not saying, necessarily recovery equals sobriety. That may be true for you, but generally speaking, it is exciting to hear that that is not, what you all were thinking as well. Let me see if I can just. All right. So the guiding principles of recovery are that recovery is self-directed. What a person in recovery wants or desires and can accomplish, right, is what we focus on, not what a provider wants to impart to the person. So when we are thinking about recovery, we are not thinking about bringing someone to where we are at in recovery. We are always starting with where they're at in recovery and with what they want. Sometimes people come into recovery just curious. I know that was true for me. If someone had told me there was a way that I had to respond, or I had to act, or there was one thing that I had to do, I would not have stayed. So we are always asking good questions, as Phil would say, and listening. Recovery's guiding principles include being strength-based. We are focused on individual strengths and capacities and talents. This is very, very important because we are not therapists and we are not doctors. We are not focused on disorders or symptoms. We are focused on strengths, and then we are using those strengths and that individual's recovery capital, which we will be talking about in a little bit, to grow other areas of wellness for them. We are focusing on empowerment and the tools that need to empower the person. This is that individual's recovery journey, and we are guiding, we are walking with that individual. We are not doing this for them. We are helping them grow the tools that they will need to be empowered to do this work. Basic needs are key. Recovery is not possible without meaning and purpose, goals, housing, work, and personal development. So some of you I know are probably familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this is similar to that. They're basic things that really need to be in place for a person to consider growing their wellness. And so we want to consider that. Hope. Hope is fundamental to recovery. People do recover, and change is always possible. I have been doing this work for like quite a few years now, and I have seen people who have lived under overpasses for 10 years straight, shooting dope, change their lives. The issue for us is, will we have enough runway with them? Will we have enough time to introduce them to pathways of recovery so that they are able to change? Very sadly, some people don't live long enough to experience this process, but we are always instilling hope and bringing hope and the belief that change is always possible. Optimism, you can do it, many do. Positive self-identity, this is born of some of William White's work. If you've not read any of William White, I would absolutely suggest that you do. He is sort of the grandfather of our field. He is a prolific writer and writes beautifully. He talks about being recovery focused, not disorder or symptom focused, and building that positive self-identity, because for so many of us in recovery or considering recovery, we have been told for so long what we are doing wrong, how we have messed things up, right? And so we are shifting that from symptom focused and disorder focused and failure focused to recovery focused. And then, of course, being of service. This is key. I don't know of a recovery pathway which doesn't consider giving back as part of one of their guiding principles. So recovery core values. All individuals are unique and have special needs. And I think you all know that. I think everybody here has, a different story and a different pathway to recovery. We recognize that people have different goals, different health attitudes, behaviors, and expectations for recovery. There may be people coming into us who want to stop smoking weed, but they're not going to stop drinking. There may be people coming into us who want to stop drinking, but there's no way they're going to stop smoking weed. We are meeting them where they are at, and that is a core value of what we do. This is really important, I feel. Persons in recovery for mental illness, alcohol, drug addiction, process addictions like gambling, share similarities, but management of their lives and mastery of their own futures will require different pathways at different times. So years ago, there was just sort of one way to do this, right? You just stopped, right? You went to perhaps a 12-step program. What we have learned is that there are many similarities across many addictions, but they are not all the same, and no person is the same, and no person's pathway to this place was the same. So everybody has to have a different pathway at different times. When I look at my own recovery, I know that in the beginning, I was doing 3 meetings a day, and I believe that if I wasn't glued to somebody in the 12-step program, there was no way I could manage my wellness. Today, my recovery looks very different. There are things that are sort of non-negotiables for me. It is very different, and my recovery has changed and sort of like and sort of morphed over time. I think that this is so important, and I call this finding our secret sauce. It is going to be different for everyone, and it will change over time. And then, of course, all persons should be offered equal access to recovery, have the opportunity to participate in their recovery process. We are not dragging anybody anywhere, right? This is their journey, and we are guiding, walking with them. So the 11 components of recovery, I added an extra component to this. It's usually 10 components, but I've added multiple pathways to this because I think that's very important. So recovery is self-directed. We have talked about that. It is born of the person. It is individualized and person-centered. I think we touched on that. This is something that is very specific to each individual. It involves empowerment. We are helping people recognize that they have control and they have agency in their life. It is holistic. We are talking about working with the mind, the body, and the spirit. And so it is something that we incorporate all of those different elements. It is not just one thing. I believed many, many years ago that if I got sober, everything in my life would be taken care of. And though many things in my life improved, I had to do much more work to work on my trauma. I had to work on my spirituality. I had to work on my healing in many, many different ways. Recovery is nonlinear. It's an organic process, and there is a lot of forward movement, but there may be steps back. And just like any growth and change process, it is not a straight line. It doesn't start here and end here.
Space, peer supported. Peers have an invaluable role, and we're going to touch on this in the recovery process of individuals. It is something that I cannot emphasize enough. Regardless of what pathway you are using, there is always peer support. And this is really relevant to our work as coaches, because that is our superpower, is that we have lived experience in this, and we are bringing this to our recoveries. Respect, of course, is a key factor in recovery. We are eliminating discrimination and stigma. That's a crucial part of what we do. We are promoting self-acceptance. We are promoting self-compassion, which is, I believe, I know in my recovery was just a huge piece of my recovery, being able to develop a kindness towards myself and an understanding of how I've been doing the best I can with the limited tools that I had, and I could improve, gaining more tools. So that respect is really important. We're helping people regain belief in themselves. Responsibility, this is a recovery's responsibility. Individuals have personal responsibility in their self-care, and we are asking them to find a way with us to show up for that. Multiple pathways, this is key. There are so many ways to get well. And I cannot say that loudly enough. I have worked with people who were told that they weren't welcome in certain fellowships or certain places because perhaps they'd stop doing one thing but not the other. We are always trying to meet people where they're at, and we are trying to help them find a way to remove barriers and embrace any pathway that is going to help grow their wellness. And of course, hope. Hope is the catalyst for the recovery process. William White, who I'll refer to a lot, has spoke to this so beautifully. He has shared that if you look at individuals over time, they absolutely have an incredible way of sustaining and moving through pain. We are capable of sustaining incredible amounts of pain and surviving incredible amounts of pain. But what he talks about is that what promotes change is not always pain. Pain can promote change perhaps for a bit of time, but it is the hope that sustains change. It is the hope that I can live a different life. I can have happiness. I can have wellness. I can recover relationships, all of these things. And so hope is the catalyst for this recovery process. Hope is something that is internalized, but it can absolutely be fostered by peers. And so that is part of one of the elements of recovery as well. So what is a recovery coach? So we're going to talk about this a little bit, and then we'll talk about what a recovery coach is not, and then how important this role is in sustaining others, individuals' recoveries. So a recovery coach, CCAR's definition, is anyone who's interested in promoting recovery by removing barriers. So I know you can't see this, but that's really, really important. We want to continually engage people. Removing obstacles to recovery is key. And by serving as a personal guide and our mentor for people seeking recovery. So that's CCAR's definition. But that removing barriers is key. And I always, when I hear the CCAR definition, think of walking shoulder to shoulder with somebody, right? William White's definition is a recovery coach is a person who helps remove personal and environmental obstacles to recovery and links the newly recovering person to the recovery community. How beautiful is that, right? And serves as a personal guide. There's that word again. And a mentor in the management of personal and family recovery. Such supports are generated by mobilizing volunteer resources within the recovery community or provided by a recovery coach. where such networks or support networks are lacking. And then this is straight out of the CCAR RCA manual from a recovery coach class. A recovery coach is a person or someone interested in promoting recovery by assisting recoveries to identify and overcome barriers, develop recovery capital, and serve as a recovery guide and companion for those seeking or sustaining recovery. So this is our working definition of a recovery coach. And this is key. So we have here the removing of barriers, being a guide. We are not promoting any pathway. We are sort of pathway agnostic, if you will. We are helping individuals develop tools, and we are helping them explore pathways so that they can do this walk and that they can take personal responsibility and have agency in their recovery. So roles and responsibility of a coach, and this is also straight out of the Recovery Coach Academy. These are some of the things: motivator and cheerleader. Of course, this is something that we do all the time. You know, we believe that people can change, and we show up with that attitude. We motivate, we encourage, and we celebrate. And this is something that I talk to our coaches about all the time here. We are celebrating the little wins, and we want to be doing that because we are building on strengths, and all those wins are things that accumulate recovery capital, as we will talk about, but they also accumulate those strengths. We are allies and confidants. We are loyal. We care. We actively listen. Listening may be the biggest thing we do in this work. We are trustworthy, and we are stable and consistent. And this, I think, the stability and consistency is another thing that is really, really important. You know, as people with lived recovery, we are wounded warriors, right? We are showing up. We are wounded helpers and healers. And so we have to be sure that our recovery is stable and consistent. And once it is stable and consistent, then we can show up and be able to help somebody else. But this is something that is important for us, and we need to always be doing the work of our own recovery first. We are truth tellers. We're honest and helpful. We offer suggestions. We help to identify patterns of behaviors. And this is something that, you know, as we sort of observe somebody in their recovery, we may have a better view of than they do. And we're helping to point these things out. We are not sugarcoating things, and we're not rubber stamping behavior that does not reflect an individual's values and their behaviors that aligning with those values. So we're being honest with individuals. And this is a really hard piece of the work, I think. We are models and we are mentors. We're showing up as an example of lived recovery, and we are walking the talk. We are just not showing up and not living this as well. So we want to be a mentor and we want to be a model, and we provide stage appropriate recovery information. And this is really important because people come to us in all different stages of recovery. We're going to touch on it really, really briefly. But we want to be meeting them exactly where they are in their recovery. And so that's really important that we have an understanding of the stages of change. And we are problem solvers, and we are problem solving with our recovery. We are assisting them in problem solving. So what we are not, this is something that is really rare, really important, and we want to sort of debunk these myths. We are not paid sponsors. That is not what a recovery coach is. I hear this all the time. A sponsor is someone who is specific to the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. A sponsor is someone who takes somebody through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you are doing that, and that is your role with an individual who's in recovery, then you're working as a sponsor. You're not working as a recovery coach. We are not sponsors. We may at some time walk someone over to an AA meeting or an NA meeting and introduce them to this pathway of recovery, but we are not sponsoring them. This is something that people talk about a lot when they hear about recovery coaches, and they're like, oh gosh, that's all that is. We are so much more than that, because we are showing up in this person's life to present multiple pathways. We are not showing up just to present one pathway. And we are also showing up not as an expert in something, like a sponsor would be an expert in walking through the 12 steps. We're not doing that. So this is really important. We are not sponsors. We are not lawyers. A lot of our clients may have legal issues. They may have be in the middle of a divorce. They may be in the middle of a custody battle. They may have legal issues in terms of arrests and facing incarceration. We are not experts in this. We help refer our clients to experts in this. But we want to be careful. We are not giving legal advice. We are not therapists. Therapists are the people that are peeling sort of back the layers and helping a person understand why they are in pain. Gabor Mate so beautifully talks to pain as being something that sort of is pain and trauma being something that is very, very prevalent and often really the core of most people's substance use disorders. It is the therapist's job to sort of peel back those layers and say, let's explore why the pain, right? It is our job as recovery coaches to be boots on the ground. Let's be in solution in this moment. How do we make a plan to grow your wellness in this moment? We are the people who are in the solution. We are very present focused. We are not peeling back those layers. You may, though, as a recovery coach, your recovery may share all sorts of things with you, and you may feel the pull to try and help them work through some of these issues in a way that is not coaching. But this is always where we refer to a family counselor, we refer to a therapist. That is not our role. Okay, we are also not nurses and doctors. Something that has come up a bit is people come to us and they may be on medications that can be easily abused. That is none of our business if their medication has been prescribed by a doctor. So if you have a client who has a diagnosis or tells you they have a diagnosis of ADHD and they're prescribed Adderall, which is an easily abusable substance, it is not up to us to say, well, why are you on that, right? That is a conversation between their nurse or their doctor or their APRN. We don't get involved in those discussions. So it's really important that we stay in our lanes here, even though we may have had an experience in our lived experience with a substance that they may be prescribed. We are never judging that, and we are never getting in the way of that. We have a lot of clients who are using medicated assisted recovery. We may have clients or recoveries, who may be on anti-anxiety medications, all sorts of different things. This is something that is not something that we comment on. And then we're not a priest and we're not a minister. We're not absolving people of their sins. We listen, but it is up to them to forgive themselves. We are never judging, but their forgiveness is self-forgiveness is part of their work. So we are not doing that work with them. So these are just important things to remember. The traditional approach to treatment has been sort of the burning building analogy. You have an individual who is using substances or is engaging in behaviors, and their life is falling apart. And so if you can sort of see them as the burning building, we rush in, families rush in. We are called to rush in and sort of put out this fire. We want to be very careful with this, right? Because oftentimes people who are suffering from an alcohol use disorder may need detox, right? They may need a medically supervised detox. Benzodiazepines, they may need a medically supervised detox. So they go to 5 days of detox, let's say, or they go to 2 weeks of detox. But we know that that may stabilize them in the moment, but that is not going to sustain them long term. We know that from our lived experience, and then we know that from some of the research we're going to talk about. Treatment may be the next thing they're sent to do, and they go somewhere for 30 days. And I know in my lived experience, it was really, really easy for me to stay sober in treatment. But the work came when I came home, and I was faced with the same living situation, the same family members, and the same sort of the same things that had originally I had originally used alcohol to cope with. So we want to be sure that we recognize that treatment and detox and all of these things have a place in the continuum of care, but they're in the beginning of this, right? They're there to stabilize an individual. And that's really what they do. I'm not poo-pooing treatment and I'm not poo-pooing detox. They're important, but I am saying that they're sort of the beginning of this process. But if we look at the continuum of growing wellness, which takes years to do, we can see that recovery coaches really have a place in this continuum. Treatment is important for stabilization in the beginning. But a lot of times we have to develop other ways to support individuals post-treatment. And so that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about what is the recovery coach's place in the continuum of care. So a lot of people coming into treatment are dragged there, and some stay, some don't stay, but treatment is never really looking at where this person is in the stages of change. And this is something that as coaches, we are able to do. I think you're probably all familiar with stages of change. So I'm just going to sort of go through these quickly: pre-contemplation, contemplation, determination, action, maintenance, and recurrence. Pre-contemplation is, I'm not considering change. I don't have a problem. I don't really know what you're talking about. And if you think I have a problem, then that's probably your problem, not my problem. Contemplation is that stage of ambivalence where you're considering change. You recognize that there's something up for you, but you're not willing or able to initiate that change just yet. Determination. Preparation, we're considering this change and we're moving forward. We're making a plan for it. Action, we're actually doing something to change. I'm attending meetings. I've engaged a recovery coach. Maintenance is we are maintaining this behavior. And then, of course, there is the possibility of recurrence. This model was developed by Prochaska and DiClemente in the late 70s. They call it trans-theoretical because they believe that everyone goes through these stages of change to change any behavior. But the key thing here is the behavior change is a process. So we want to consider where people are in this change process, and we want to look at their recovery capital. And so since we're coming from a strengths-based model, recovery capital refers to the sum of resources necessary to initiate and sustain recovery. And recovery capital is something that we want to, as coaches, build. We are always looking at individuals' recovery capital, and we are always finding a way to help them grow that area, grow their recovery capital. There's social capital, which are the sum of resources each person has as a result of their relationships. So that includes both support from individuals and obligations and things they must do. There's physical capital, which is the tangible capital, property, money, human capital, which are skills, their positive health, aspirations, and hopes, personal resources, and cultural capital, which are the values and beliefs and attitudes that link them to social conformity and positive social norms. It is important for us, and this is something that we do as coaches, to recognize the challenges of an early recovery. When you have taken away somebody's substance of choice, they have an increased sensitivity to stress. And so that increased sensitivity to stress makes them feel all sorts of things. I know this was true for me, that they haven't felt before. They may be a bit more anxious. They may be a bit more fearful. But at the same time that we have this increased sensitivity to stress, we have a decreased capacity to experience normal levels of reward. And so this is because our brain is still healing. So early recovery is especially challenging because of this. And so as soon as someone comes out of treatment, we want to be there as coaches. This is where we begin with individuals, because we want to help them in this very difficult and sensitive part and time of recovery. The process of recovery, and this is going back to William White here, is a long, long process. There is pre-recovery, which takes all the years that you are, it's all the years of use, honestly. It's all those years that you are drinking or drugging, and that could be 5 years, that could be 10 years, that could be 20 years. I probably was in pre-recovery for at least 20 years. And then I had sort of my recovery initiation, which was sort of my, is something up with me? Why do I feel so crummy all the time? And then my recovery initiation went over the course of many, 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 many years. I was thinking about recovery. I was thinking about how I could feel better, but I wasn't really changing much in my life. Then early recovery began. So I decided to stop drinking, and early recovery was that first 3 months. Sustained recovery was the next 12 months. Long-term recovery, in terms of this process of recovery, defined by William White, is 5 years into recovery. So we have individuals who are coming to us straight out of treatment, right, who need support over a very long span of time. And this could be 5 years. So my question is really, and my sort of challenge and invitation, I guess, to all of you is, like, who's going to be there for these people? Who's going to be there for these recoveries? I would say it's recovery coaches over this long haul. Therapists meet with their person once a week. Sponsors are only one pathway. We are there for individuals as recovery coaches. We are there for individuals over the long haul of this, and we are the boots on the ground support. what I have here on the screen now, and I'm sorry you can't see this, is the clinical course of addiction and remission, and this is from the work of Dr. John Kelly. And he says exactly the same thing. Recovery priming, or sort of getting ready to be in recovery, can be up to 4 to 5 years. Recovery mentoring is 8 years, and recovery monitoring 5 years. Dr. Kelly did a longitudinal study in which he talked about all of this. He used AA as his point of reference in this study because there were so many. AA is the most available form of community, a community pathway out there that does not cost any money. But he did Cochrane's systematic analysis of this. It was published in 2020. And when you get the slides, you will have the link to this. I would encourage you all to explore it because this is the work that is saying, 30 days does not cut it. Just a detox does not cut it. We need long-term support over a long period of time in order to sustain our wellness. So the most common feature of all of the mutual health organizations, all of the pathways to recovery is peer power. I think all of you sitting here have experienced the hope and the power of peers, but this is the main ingredient here. And of course, as recovery coaches, as I said earlier, this is our superpower. There are many, many, many pathways to recovery. And, there is, of course, LifeRing, there is AA, there's Refuge Recovery, there is Smart Recovery, there's Phoenix Multisport, there is NA, there are all of the anonymouses, there's Women for Sobriety, there is All Recovery, and that's just to name a few. There are also mutual help organizations like CCAR. There's recovery programming and education. There are community centers like CCARs. There's physical and recreational activity to promote recovery. There are recovery residences, and there's all different levels of sober housing and recovery residences, but also there is recovery coaching, and recovery coaching is something that can be blended into all of those things, into the mutual help organizations, into programming, into recovery residences, and into community centers. And we can offer recovery coaching as part of this continuum of care, no matter what pathway individuals are choosing to explore. Mechanisms of behavior change are born out of positive social networks. That's where recovery is born. And we have seen and we know that connection is everything in this. We have Johann Hari's very famous quote that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it is connection. And as long as we are looking at that, we know that recovery coaches provide a crucial way to support individuals through connection, no matter what pathway they are using. Peer recovery support is essential in this continuum of care. So the other thing that I just wanted to mention, which is born out of Dr. Kelly's work, is that, and you will see this slide here, is that in his recovery research, people who come into recovery do quite well in the beginning. There is usually a dip in recovery around 6 to 9 months, which is, of course, post-treatment and post-detox and post a lot of people's sober living experiences. And in that 6 to 9 months, there is usually a dip in recovery wellness. And this is another place where it is just crucial. If we have recovery coaches working with individuals, we can support individuals knowing that that's going to be something that is a possibility. We can get ahead of that with our recoveries. Quality of life, happiness, recovery capital, and self-esteem are all things that grow during early recovery, and all things that we can, as recovery coaches, support. So I'm going to skip over this, and I think I'm just going to sort of end with relationship and alliance. It has been shown that relationships are probably the most important things in people growing their wellness. There was a study done in terms of, seeing what therapy is best. And what they found, for people with mental health issues and or substance use disorders, and what they found with, especially in therapy, is that it wasn't the type of therapy that made the difference. It was the therapeutic relationship or alliance. So we know this, and we know that there is a ton of research showing that connection and an early positive alliance helps people get well and helps people stay in recovery. So the makings of strong connections should be, I think, the central concern of all recovery programs. And as recovery coaches, we are absolutely able to provide that service. And I think that wraps it up for me.
You want to take a few minutes to get any questions here?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sure. And
Yeah, of
any
course.
questions, comments?
So I apologize again for my lack of technical skills. And I will get these slides to Travis.
Yeah, I'll send, as soon as I have those, Cindy, I'll send them right out to everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I just want to say, Cindy, thank you so much. This was really refreshing. And it's always good to really hear, I love the way that you kind of talked about what we are and what we are not, because I too hear that all the time around, needing to identify that, no, this is not coaching, this is sponsoring, the difference around that. And how you end it with the relationship, because that is core and key in everything, right? We have to pour something in order to be getting something out. And so thank you so much. This was really, really great.
Oh, thanks, Maggie.
I want to add to this, was very informative. I actually work inside of a residential treatment facility as a recovery coach. And as I'm supervising my coaches, when we have meetings, I always ask them to explain their role, because I hear a lot of them acting as if they're therapists,
Yeah.
and then, or sponsors. And I have to keep reminding them that that's not our job. Our job is to meet people where they're at and be an advocate, a guide, and a support system. So thank you for clarifying that for me.
Yeah. And I think that we don't give enough credence to our lived experience. We bring something to this that is extraordinary because, we have the wounds, and we have, healed from our wounds, and we are healing from our wounds, and we share that. The hope that we bring to this is so incredible, and it's so important. And I think that sometimes coaches think that because they don't have a lot of alphabets behind their name, that, they don't have a lot to bring, or that they have to sort of bring something else to this. And you don't, right? This is like it's an extraordinary gift to be able to share your wellness with someone, but use your lived experience to help foster theirs and also to open doors for them. It's extraordinary. And it is enough.
Spencer's got his hand up. Thanks, Spencer.
Hi guys. Um, I came on here today because I wanted to ask a question, basically, because I knew there was going to be a lot of people here that are a lot further down the road than I am at this particular point. And my question is that I was doing the ethical studies as part of my RCP, and there's a case study there that gave the example of a ex-drug dealer that had become a recovery coach, but then he was put in touch with someone that he actually used to sell to, and what were the ethics behind that and how he could get around that. And I'm still pondering that sort of question, because I believe it's his job to help, but is he too close, or what the ramifications of that? And the reason I ask, I won't keep you too long, but the reason I ask is that I facilitated gambling for over 25 years. I worked in the gambling industry. I actively encouraged it. I came out of that about 6 years ago now, and I was toying with the idea of reaching out to some of the people that I may have affected over that period of time. And it's my question is to you guys is that ethically responsible? Do you think, what does anyone have any views with that? Because I'm at a bit of a crossroads with it. In one hand, I really want to give something back and help, but what is a reaction going to be? I know it could be very different from person to person, but I just wondered if I could get any advice on that.
So I'll put that out to the group, I think. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, Spence, I'm in a similar position with the hospitality industry, and I used to push alcohol on people, and used to think it was funny to push alcohol on people, not just like people I was serving, but people I was working with as well. So yeah, I really resonate with that thought process, because it's a tough situation, isn't it? Because you're just like, I want to right some wrongs, and you almost feel a responsibility for them. But I do have to remind myself that you can't also save everyone. And it's also a fact of like, if they reach out to you, yeah, 100%. And if there are any specific examples, I know that there are certain people that I was unkind to, because I was unkind to myself. So to reach out to them, yeah, but not at the detriment to myself, because I'm on my own recovery journey. And if I inspire and I can help people, then I will inspire and help people. But I have to accept that I don't have the capacity to go back and right all my wrongs, but I will do what I can to right my wrongs.
Right.
Well said.
Yeah, very well said.
I have a comment on this and a personal experience kind of on this as well. And so I would say, because of the fact that one of the pathways that I use is the 12 steps. So in the 9th step is where that happens, right? Which is looking at all of what I've done from step 1 through 9, but not at the detriment of myself or anyone else. And some of it of giving back, where it looks like, let me make rights for my wrongs, how I feel like I do outside of kind of a formal recovery pathway, is I actually make good by helping someone else who might be experiencing something in that same area, as opposed to going right back into it, because I'm not sure how it might trigger me or impact someone else, and they may not even know yet. So another way of giving back in something that actually, is maybe in the gambling field or in the alcohol field, things of that sort, some type of volunteer work, is how I actually try to do it. So hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Maggie. Yeah, I would echo all of that. I would say that, we have to be really solid in our own wellness. And so that really comes first. And then the other thing that I would just ask you to just think about is, why do you want to reach out? Like, is this something that is going to perhaps make you feel better? Or is this something that's a benefit to that person? I think if the person reaches out to you, that is very appropriate. And I think all of us have probably been in a situation where, or at least I'll speak for myself, people have heard that I'm in recovery, and along the way, people have reached out to me because they were curious or they wanted help. But it's never been something that I have gone out and sought. You know, even for people that I can see, you know, that are struggling. You know, I always wait for it to be from them. You know, if someone in my community and not someone, you know, who's part of the work that I do. So I think we have to be careful with that. But also, you know, just managing our own recovery first. We want that to be really solid. And if we need to do more for our recovery and maybe do less working with recoveries, we want to give ourselves that as well.
Okay, thank you. It's good to hear. I'm sort of coming from this sort of angle that should I at least signpost that I've gone into um, the world of recovery coaching? Would that be a good thing to do? You know, just to make people aware, not to force my services, or you know, I'm working for a company called Refrain, which is a gambling harms charity as well. So I'm gaining more experience there. But it was just to, is it okay to sort of make people aware that those things, because that's kind of acting like an advocate of recovery, isn't it? So, and I have access through my years in that industry to lots of people that I feel that probably don't know or understand that there is help there. So these are the things I'm sort of battling with. Does that make sense? Sorry.
Sure, it makes sense. So, you know, I'd also just put that out to the group, you know, as you've gotten your RCP, have you
Nearly.
put it out there that you are working in recovery in some social media form, or is that what you're
Yeah.
at? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, because I know that this, you know, I've still got sort of access to that world,
Mm-hmm.
you know, through social media accounts, that kind of thing, you know. And I was just wondering how to go about that, how to sort of say, and obviously some people won't be happy about it, you know, they'll probably think it's hypocritical or whatever. I'm kind of ready for that, you know, because if I could help one,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm doing all right, right? You know, so I'm kind of thick-skinned like that because I had to be in the industry that I was in anyway. But it's just about how to go about that in the correct manner, you
Mm-hmm.
know. That's what I'm interested in.
So, you know, I would again put that out to the group because, you know, I work for an organization, and I don't use social media, so I'm not a good, I'm not a good person for that.
Aaron's hands up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really have to dive to get a train home. You're asking Spence, is it important? Like, should I share my story? I'd say that it's actually really important for people in your sphere that you do. In the same way, like if I'm branching it back to the hospitality industry, people are like, what, you've got your alcohol consumption under control. Wouldn't have believed it in my wildest dreams. You also said there as well, I picked up on that some people will judge you as a hypocrite. Anyone that judges you for you bettering yourself in the nicest possible way can go fuck themselves, because that's your journey. And if they want to stay there and they want to resonate in that, that's not your problem. You will help people by sharing your story because you will give hope and inspiration to people. And that is what moves you forward. The very last point is we talk about meeting people where they're at. So people that are struggling with gambling, where would you find them? It might be on social media, it might be through podcasts, it might be through whatever platform. Go to that platform and find and share your story there, and people will reach out to you and you'll change people's lives, mate. Right. I'm really sorry. I do have to dive. Thank you so much for your time. See you later, guys. Take it easy.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Danny, you had your hand up too.
Yep. Cindy, wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for putting the time in and being available for us. Spencer, the only thing I wanted to add, everybody that has responded are spot on, and I really just feel as though what's important is definitely it's matching your purpose and aligning that with your intentions. And also I believe in providing like doing amends. I really do. I'm in a 12-step fellowship. Amends is a part of the process. So if it's going to help you, because as a recovery coach, your recovery is a major intricate in their recovery. So if you're no good for yourself, you're definitely not going to be available to give 110% to them. So absolutely, I would support you if you feel that it's going to help you to move forward and be the best version of yourself. Then go clean your side of the street. And I love it. So I just want you to know that I'm definitely in your corner for that.
Thanks for adding that.
Thank you. Thank you, Danny. Nice words. Thank you.
All right. So it's 11:30. Any final words, Cindy?
Really just, I was so excited and so honored to be able to do this. And I do apologize for my technical snafus. And I'm just grateful that you all are curious about this. We need you. We need you. We need you. We need you. We need more recovery coaches who are, coming with heart and purpose and love and passion, and I hope that you can see a path for yourself long term in this field, because we do need you, and the research says that we need you, and I do think that we have a really vital role, and I do believe that this is the future. Recovery coaching is the future of this, because as times in treatment get made shorter and shorter. Here in this country, we're very insurance driven. I'm not sure about everyone else's situations, but I do believe that recovery coaching is going to be the way that we help the most people, to heal and sustain their wellness.
Grace has her hand up. Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah.
Can I come in quickly?
Sure.
I wanted to thank you so much for all the info today. It's no worries about the slides anyway. I actually wrote in the chat, I'd actually like to see you. And it helped me so much, because I'm also right in the training. I'm almost finished now with the RCA training. I think tomorrow is my last day. And we learned about it and we read about it, and we've, done a lot of sort of theoretical thing. And in our class, of course, we were in the small groups and everything, but listening to you talk about it and explain it the way you did kind of brought it all to life for me, and it's really difficult here because we don't have anything like that here. And if we did, there's not a big amount of it in English. And that's my big hope, is to sort of grow that in an English speaking community, because it's either German, French, or Italian here. And so it's like a kind of a gap here for us in English. So today, really, I'm so glad I jumped on today. I'm eager to learn a lot. So I'm looking forward to joining more things, but it just helped to bring it all to life for me,
Oh,
So thank you so much for that.
so glad. I'm so glad.